the recording. All right, and now I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so here we are sharing this. Let me just make sure. Okay, here we go. All right, so first of all, introductions. As I mentioned, I'm Brigitte Shearer, the Parks and Recreation Director and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the City of Belmont. Again, we have Carmel High School students here who, when they heard about the DEI effort that the city was engaging in, they raised their hand and said they wanted to participate and become involved. And they are working with Carmel High School to develop a club to sort of further this discussion. So we're excited about that. And then thank you to the representatives of the community that are here tonight. Councilmember Tom McCune is here as well, and others, and we're ready to go. So opening remarks by Vice Mayor Hurt.
Yeah, I'll just say a few things to talk. Oh, okay. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight, and many thanks to Brigitte and her team for putting this program together, and the library for hosting us. So my name is Davina Hurt. I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of Belmont, and this topic of equity and inclusion is near and dear to me. It's absolutely necessary for a more just and sustainable Belmont, and I'd say society where people have dignity, equity, and opportunity. I strongly believe, thank you, that creating a culture of belonging does not just happen. We must be intentional and purposeful. And so we can do our very best to bring the best city services to all of you. And this takes time, many conversations, and leadership. And I tell folks all the time, you know, it's taken generations for inequities to be baked into our systems, structural and institutional, and it'll take time to address those inequities for a stronger and healthier community. But we're on track. Other parts of the United States, someone who just got back from Texas, maybe not so much, but we definitely are doing what we can and having conversations. And I would say, as you look around the room and you think about people who are not here today, like how can you bring them into the conversation and uplift maybe their thoughts and ideas, or how can we get an interview of them because maybe they have other things that they need to contend with and can't make the time and the space. But I stand before you as someone who's had my very own experience of belonging in this community. And it's one of the reasons that propelled me to run for council, and why I continue to advocate for a committee that really focuses on the positive side of our rich diversity of cultures, our innovation, and art in its many forms to bring people together. With that said, I wanted to give people some grounding on this topic that I think is really important. I think it's difficult to talk about creating an environment of belonging without reflecting and acknowledging the past and current realities of marginalized groups. And quite frankly, being very clear on the part that government and other stakeholders have played a role, intentionally or not on purpose, to make conditions unbearable, difficult, or worse for some community members. When Thomas Jefferson in the Constitution wrote, "All men are created equal," he didn't mean all men. He didn't mean men, or he didn't mean women. He meant men. He meant people with property and not those without. And he meant quote unquote white and not quote unquote people of color. Which also brings me to the topic of race equity. By the way, race is a social construct, but it's proved to be used as a strong reason to treat people unequally yesterday and today. And so on top of income and wealth and gender, ability, age, and sexual orientation, these are all things that we need to talk about and discuss if we are going to create an environment of belonging. And if you still have questions, because I did talk to my daughter about this a little bit, you know, explicit government actions that come to mind that have happened here is segregation, Japanese internment camps, residential schools, and redlining. And there are a lot of books on redlining. And so If we go back even further in history, whose land are we standing on? What are the rights associated in law versus the concept of law ownership of Indigenous people when it comes to land? So these are our homes today, but much of the land here in California is unceded ancestral and native homelands, specifically for San Mateo County and Belmont, Ohlone, Ramaytush, and Mumakwa, and Costanoan people, whose people are still present today and fighting for equity as well as their land rights. So when it comes to history of government playing a part and inequities in the community, there is no denying that this is a fact. And so it's upon us to transform and reconcile these responsibilities of our history that we've inherited for allyship, and work hard and intentionally create a culture of belonging in Belmont that sets conditions that allow people to thrive in every aspect of life and have opportunities to create the futures that they want for themselves, their families, and live peacefully next to one another, respecting our different lifestyles. So all in all, we can look at data and make our own conclusions. And I say we, I mean government, I mean city council. But there's nothing like hearing directly from you all as far as lived experiences. Some of that is just not in the data, and it doesn't give a complete picture. And to be quite honest, I think we need more of those conversations so people can begin to empathize with other walks that people have here in this world. So here we are today to learn from your lived experiences. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. I am the vice mayor, and so I always say, if you want to have a meeting and talk about these issues with me, I'm always open. But I'm excited to hear from all of you. And I'm going to pass it over to Brigitte to continue on with our group agreement and move us forward.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so bear with me, folks. I'm gonna share a different version of the screen. Sorry, be that close. Here we go. Is that working? Okay, all right. Sorry. Okay, folks. Let's see if I can turn off the camera. So I'm not looking. All right, here we go. All right, so let's talk about a group agreement. Some of this group agreement was developed by some city staff that were on a DEI working committee with me to try to work on some internal improvements that we could come together and discuss and agree on to try to improve the culture and the sense of belonging among city staff. So this is a starting point. This is not an endpoint of a group agreement, but just to kind of review that, I'm hoping we can include these in how we interact with each other here tonight. So first of all, let's be respectful all around. So one microphone at a time. And I know that's a little challenging with folks on Zoom and in the room, but we will do our best. Keep an open mind to what you hear. Let's make sure we greet each other and greet everyone. Let's be clear and direct with our communications, either out to the whole group or with the person sitting next to you. And if you don't understand the communication that you've heard, ask for clarification. Don't assume something. We sometimes make a mistake when we do that. So let's be open to different opinions, some of which could make you uncomfortable in the moment. And let's just allow that to happen here today. And if there's some discomfort, that's actually a good starting point for a discussion. Let's respect confidentiality here in the room. That's where we're going to stop the recording later on when we are a little more interactive. But if someone is sharing something personal, let's keep it here in the room and be respectful of that bravery. Don't be afraid to share something that might be very personal or painful to you. Let's be present. Let's try to stay here in the room until 8 o'clock, or if we end a little sooner, that's fine. Let's be accountable. So if you're making a statement, make sure it's something that you are prepared to stand behind tonight and tomorrow and going forward. And finally, let's just assume the best intentions. Everybody's here for a reason. They're interested in learning more and hearing other opinions, and let's take that assumption with us. Is there anything else that you might want to add to that group agreement tonight? And folks on Zoom, I apologize. If you have, let's use the Q&A function. I'll try to monitor that here as well. So if you have something to add, let's go ahead and put it into the Q&A, and I'll do my best to keep an eye on that. Okay. So that's our group agreement. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there something there? Okay. Thank you. Bear with me. Let's see how I can get there. Oh, here it is. Oh, it is. Okay. It is a thank you. Somebody is confirming that they can see and hear us. So we're good to go. Great. Okay. Bear with me with the technology here. Okay. So why are we talking about this? Vice Mayor Hurt gave us a lot of excellent background and depth. So bear with me. This might be a little bit repetitive. Belmont's population has become increasingly diverse. Some of you that have been here in the city for many years have noticed it and felt it. It's very typical of the entire Bay Area, and is not just unique to Belmont. Our country continues to suffer from a lack of social justice and awareness of inequities. Obviously, in 2020, we started the George Floyd discussions, and that has raised the awareness, but the topic is not new. The conversations are new, and we are elevating them by doing what we're doing here tonight. And there is a lot to discuss. We're not going to address it all. We're certainly not going to solve it all here tonight, but we need to start having those conversations. And the city of Belmont and the Belmont community together can be part of the solution. This DEI program that I am working on is not something that the city is imparting on the community of Belmont, nor does it go the other way. We are here together to try to come up with identifying some areas of improvement. Some of it is how the city interacts with the community. Some of it is among the community members themselves. Some of it is at the schools. We had some great discussions on that already. Lots of areas that we need to address, and together, again, with open minds and open hearts, we can get to some of those solutions. So the city council put together a resolution back in 2017. They reaffirmed it in 2020. We value and celebrate a strong commitment to diversity, inclusion, safety, equality, and dignity for all individuals in Belmont. So again, this topic is not new to Belmont, but it is important and increasingly important to Belmont. So let's quickly just review some of the demographics. Our population has reduced a little bit since 2020. 6% are under the age of 5, almost 15% are 65 and older, and that demographic is going to continue to grow significantly over the next 20, 30 years. We have almost 11,000 households. A little over half of them are owner-occupied homes. That means we have a large rental population. So as we're starting to think about diversity, racial diversity is paramount, but there are also several other dimensions of diversity that as we start these conversations, we're going to be addressing as well. Most people have internet access at home, but not all. We do have some folks under the age of 65 that have a disability. Obviously, in the older demographic, quite a bit more. And again, something else that we need to consider as we're starting to address some of these things. Now, on the racial demographics, our Asian population is about almost 30%, Hispanic or Latino 12%, Black and African American 1.2%. American Indian and Alaska Native 0.2%, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander 1.4%, white is 49.1%, and 2 or more races 7.7%. So this is from the census.gov webpage. I know that this doesn't necessarily all add up to perfectly to 100, but it's from the census. So what is diversity? Diversity is the mix of different people, and the differences include race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, varying abilities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, language, and more. And intersectionality is the complex cumulative manner in which the effects sort of compound and add additional challenges by having more than one. So when we talk about not making assumptions and things, let's think about for a moment some of the diversity dimensions that we can all see and hear and feel and observe, and then think about the iceberg that is underneath the surface of the water, about all the different dimensions that we can't see. And it's important as we go through this to think about and remember all of those in your interactions with folks, that it's not just about what we see. Equity. Equity is a quality of being fair and impartial. And there's a lot of discussion about equality and equity. We're going to go through a little visual about that in a moment. But equity is the intentional and continuous effort to address systemic and societal imbalances of opportunities and to remove barriers of access for racial and social justice. So sometimes those words are used interchangeably, and certainly a few years ago, even back in 2017, if you'll notice the City Council's resolution used the word equality, not equity. So things have changed, and the definitions of those things and the awareness of those terms has changed a little bit over time. And rather than me trying to put words to it, let's take a look at this image, right? Oops, sorry. Right, equality is everybody getting the same box to stand on to look over the fence. And yet, someone still can't look over the fence. Equity is giving individuals what they need in order to participate. So you can see that the distribution of the boxes is very different. And it's important to note that one person does not have a box, and that needs to be okay. There's more though. This is reality on the left. Some folks are actually starting with a deficit, and that's some of the social justice and historical injustices that we're going to be talking about a little more as this conversation continues. And the reality is that some people start at a significant disadvantage and some people start at a significant advantage, neither through any fault or actions necessarily of their own in many cases. Equality would distribute those boxes evenly. And again, equity would give each person the box that they need. Now, there's another interesting perspective here. If you see that, again, going from left to right, think about liberation. And let's think, when we talk about thinking about outside the box and opening our minds, let's think about, do we need a fence at all? And what are the fences here in Belmont that we just sort of take for granted because they need to be here? This is not, as a Parks and Rec director, this is not an ideal image because I've got some safety concerns about there not being a fence there, but maybe there could be a different kind of fence, and that there are different solutions. It's not always about giving things. Sometimes it's about taking away some things that are right in front of us that we don't view as obstacles or barriers. What is inclusion? Inclusion is getting the mix to work together. It's the ability for all people to feel a sense of true belonging and empowered to express their unique identities and intersectionalities in order to thrive and reach their fullest potential. I'll give a quick example that comes from Parks and Rec. We have started a summer camp program that has an inclusion camp component to it. So some children with some different neurodivergent conditions can join our summer camp. We got a grant from the county to be able to offer this inclusion camp. We got additional money to add some inclusion features in some of our parks. And one of those, if you've noticed it out here in the Belmont Library and in 2 other parks, we have what we call inclusion swings. They used to be called ADA swings because they were for folks with differing abilities. And we put out those swings that were originally designed for children who have some physical challenges. That is the most inclusive swing in the entire city, that design. It is available for everyone. And so when I think about ways to, to enact this liberation that we talked about, let's just change the swing for everyone. And all children are enjoying the swing. And for me, it was a beautiful example of it's truly an inclusive swing. It is not a separate route for someone to take or a separate entrance for someone to take. It is a swing for everyone. And we hope to offer more of those types of experiences and amenities in the city. So now we're going to kind of talk about what does an equitable and welcoming Belmont look like? And I'm going to go through a few, no, you know what, let's stay here. And actually, I'm going to turn off the recording now just to be sure that that we can all speak freely. So we've got some folks online, and I'm wondering, folks online, if you feel comfortable sharing your comments through the Q&A, you can, or we can create a breakout room. Is that right? We can do that? Okay.
I'm not sure if you can do it through a webinar.
Oh, okay.
I never.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a webinar. Okay. So, all right. So apologize, due to, right.